for suggestion.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thanks, Kapil. Thanks for inviting me for this session. Uh, this is actually the publishing your first journal article is quite enunciating, I feel, as when we start our professional life in the beginning as a optometrist, we usually focus on the clinical aspects, and a little bit we lag in giving a fine touch to the publications. So I do feel that optometry in the professional career, uh, definitely there should be an excellence in the clinical part, but should I think we should be inspired and try to attempt to have a kind of a beginner publications. I feel it's a quite rewarding task actually. So sometimes the publishing papers could be a quite daunting at the beginning, and there might be a full of fear and trepidations. But in other side, it is actually exciting too, especially publishing the first part of first paper. So like when we get the paper acceptance, we just feel like we did some sort of achievements. So in that terms, it is quite exciting by the other side also. And as a professional profession, I believe as an optometrist, in any sort of in your career advancement, you might have done some sort of research. Like for an example, in the undergraduate, we usually do the project. In the masters, we do the thesis writing. So based on that, for the current situation, current time of this lockdown, I think this is appropriate time to start give a good time to consider writing a paper. So on this background, I just thought that this might be a good topic to have discussions today. So this is purely my experience-based presentation rather than any uh, imposition of the any theories or the any sort of speculations. So this is just purely my experience-based thoughts, and I I framed the objective for today's this talk as to discuss an experience-based process of writing a first journal article, and I waived no financial any sort of disclosure for these presentations. I would like to share with my a very beginning experience of my publishing experience. So at the time when I was doing Bachelor of Optometry, like other students do, I had to do also a project, but this was done without much of the sense of knowledge and understanding. So I completed research, but I didn't know that how I complete the project. But I could manage to present that paper in a conference, conference in a all Nepal medical conference, and later, and then I did when I enrolled in the masters. Then I sensibly give a very good amount of time for the research as well as for the presentation point of view. So I could make two international presentations out from that my master's thesis, and but it took a quite long time to publish that paper, and because as soon as I complete my study, my primary focus was to find a job and start my job. So it took quite a while to have my first publications. So before 2011, I did not have any publications. So like in the academic context, the phrase the publish, sorry, could you see my presentation slides, Kapil?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can. Yes,
Because
sir. Yes, we can see, sir.
okay, that's okay. Thank you very much. Because I already moved to the third slide. Is it visible?
You have to slide yourself, sir. You are viewing from your phone, so I guess you have to slide
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. So the title is publish or perish. Could you see this title, this page?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes.
mean, okay, because I saw something different in my computer.
Sir, actually, this is the first slide of presentation we are seeing since the initial.
No, no, this is
I guess
my.
they.
I actually moved to my third slide actually.
Okay, sir.
Uh,
We are seeing publishing your first article journal. This is the first slide presentation, I guess, sir.
this is first, yeah, but I moved to third slide.
Sir, I guess, sir, are you using from your mobile phone, sir? You are
Yeah, I'm
viewing
using from my
this.
mobile phone. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what is the problem. Can you slide once again, sir? Let's see it's moved or not.
Now this is second slide.
Okay, it's not moving, sir. Once again, I will be making
Uh,
use presenter, sir, and let's see it's work or not.
or maybe I just use this computer. Just a minute.
Okay.
Uh, no, this is not working actually.
Yes, sir. Okay. I guess you are viewing from your mobile phone, right, sir?
Yeah, I'm viewing from my mobile phone. Yeah.
Yes, sir, but why it is not sliding? I don't know. Refresh the page and it will work. Okay. And
I
once again,
just
I'm
put to the
making.
second slide so that I can make sure that it is going. This is my second slide now.
It's not showing, sir. I guess you have, sir, close once and open once again. Just close your WPS and open once again, sir.
Close the WTS.
Yes, sir.
Exit. Okay. Then play.
I guess, sir, it is. Okay. I don't know what is happening, but it's showing continuously
Now
one slide.
can you see second slide now?
No, sir. I guess I will be shipped to you for the laptop, sir. I guess laptop will work.
Okay, you're sharing the
Yes, presenter. Yes, sir.
slide
I'm
in.
making the presenter on laptop. Yes, sir.
Okay,
What
I can
what
look
you will
that
be
either
touching
way.
from the mobile phone? No problem, sir. You can continue with your laptop.
Share.
It's not visible, sir. Yes, and laptop is visible now.
Okay. Uh, Now I think you can see the presentation.
Yes, sir. We can. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just moved to the next second slide. I think it is working now, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes. Got
Sorry.
it.
Sorry for the inconvenience. Uh, I apologize for the inconvenience. I was actually just keep on talking and forget to look at the screen. Sorry for that. So I put my objective to discuss an experience-based process of writing a first journal article, as I mentioned earlier. So I would just like to keep on moving. Now, uh, often in academic context, the phrase publish or the perish is widely used to refer to the pressure or the pressures on academics to publish their work frequently and constantly to obtain like employment and advance their career. Uh, so in academic context, it's kind of there is a pressure for the promotions or some sort of the achievements. There should be a publish, or if you don't have, if you go to the parish. So I just want to show the metaphor over here with this diagram. Like when you publish a paper, the publication is utmost important, definitely. But apart from that, you should know that this published paper have some sort of merit for you as well. So like there are so many nowadays journals we call predator journals or the predator conferences. They you might get a lot of invitations and the call from those publishers, but the publication in those papers might not be meaningful to the the publishing or scientific community. So, excuse me, just a minute. I could not see my slide itself. So if you don't publish, what happens? If you don't publish, normally if we don't publish, we do not write, it never get published. But if we write, what could be the worst situations? When we were, we might find that at the best, publication may be delayed, but at worst might be rejected. But the rejection is not the end. I would like to highlight over here is the rejection is not the end, because once you get rejections, the 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 reviewer or the editor might give you a lot of uh, a very good comments, a very good scientific comments, which might help you in re-evaluating your paper, writing your paper more in a more scientific way with answering all those questions. And you there is an always another option, so you can choose other journal as well. So rejection is not the dead end while we are working on publications. Just a minute, sorry. I couldn't move this slide, sorry. So my next question is, like, why do we publish a research paper? I would just like to take your couple of minutes over here. I would just like to see your comments, in your ideas, what could be the why we publish a research paper. So I would like to take some of your ideas, your opinions, maybe in a few words in the comment. So I would just take a couple of minutes in that case, because as we know that the sense of ownership often motivates us to perform our job critically, responsibly, and full-heartedly. So in that background, why we consider publishing a paper. So you can give your opinion as a clinician, as an academician, or a researcher, or a manager, what sort of the role you are playing, how that research can impact in your profession. So I just wait for a couple of minutes. Hello, Kapil. Is it here audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is
Yeah,
audible,
okay.
sir. Yes.
Okay. Just to make sure that we are on connections.
Yes, sir. There is
Yeah.
some of the answers we can see on the chat box, sir.
Okay, that's great. That's thanks to all of them who has um sent the comment. Would you just please read, Kapil? Read some
Okay, sir.
comments for me.
Okay, sir. So here not saying that to share our specific work with the others.
Okay,
On
that's
sir
right.
saying that to contribute to yes sir to contribute towards the science and academy.
That's perfect.
Anand
Absolutely perfect.
yes sir. Anand sir saying things which are not discovered previously can be discovered with research.
Yeah, that's
Solu
also
Gautam
right. That's
saying
also right. That's what we want to
yes.
do the research as well. That is one of the reasons. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir. Solu Gautam saying to export knowledge and generate the innovation.
Okay, that's right.
Ajit, yes, sir. Ajit sir saying it's our duty to share our knowledge and input to our colleagues that will help them in their practice and further works.
Yeah, that's right. That's how we develop the professional network. That's right.
I guess sir, we get a lot of messages, so it will be difficult to read out. So it's coming
Okay,
out just like
so
a 10 or
yeah,
20
okay.
comments.
Yeah, that's all right. So I just continue with my talk. So overall, I just yeah, sorry. This is moving. Yeah, okay. So why do we publish a research paper? Uh, like we said that technically to share research findings and discoveries and to contribute to the science. This is a technical term, but the real sense in practical aspect at the current scenario, we are doing publishing paper to get job, to get funding for our research, funding for our project, to get promotions in our job, maybe in services or any places, to get recognition of the work what we do and to share our achievements. So that is also our one of way that to show our achievements. So there are other reasons also, like we have received so many uh, uh, comments on the so many reasons for the publications. So these are some of the listed, uh, some of the technical and practical aspects we normally see at the publication. So the next question is then, do you have an interesting story to tell? After all, we need to tell a story. But the storytelling means not like the fiction story with full of surprise and dramas. This is a story which is scientifically presented, it is coherently presented, it is interrelated to our work, to our job, or maybe to our research questions, specifically when we speak. So while we means telling the story should not be very big and great. Normally, what we think is when we tend to be a little bit reluctant that I may not have a big story, big picture of my project. This is very small project. We might think that, but we do not need necessarily a big and great story. We need a story that enough to be exciting and compelling, so this story would be enough. So this is the art how we present our story so that the reader get interested and we could provoke thought on them. So definitely, but ideally it should be a novel. This is the prerequisite. So novel means that should have some sort of new ideas, maybe new concept, new findings. It might be that should be significant and that might be insightful. So we do not need a big picture, so we can simply say that less is more. So less story can also reveal a big picture. Next is then where we to publish. If you look at the if you do the internal Google, if you Google, we might find thousands of journals. So sometimes we might get confused that which journal is acceptable for the which journal for acceptable for the our particular paper. So in that context, we need to select a particular journal or maybe a list of journals prior to uh, um, prior to writing or prior to publishing. So that would fit into our based on our order of preference, our relevance and quality of journals. So preference, relevance, and quality of journals. I just keep at the moment quality of journal aside. A preference and relevance means like if we are doing subject, there are many areas of the specialities like optometry, ophthalmology, vision, psychology. So this sort which area we are targeting, so we can select that based on that. Then our research is clinical or the experimental or medical or epidemiological. So in that way also we can select some journals, maybe based on the disease like pathology, vision therapy, vision, contact lens. So there are many ways we look at the relevance and preference to the journal. And regarding the quality of journal, definitely quality matters a lot. But my advice is that when we start writing a first draft of the journal, I would rather prefer not selecting a very high and top ranked journals for the first publications. So maybe a reasonable level of quality might be worked. So in like if you look at the journals and optics, you might hardly find high impact journals, but uh, low impact journal also could have high quality yielding. So the chances of acceptance uh, could be high even if there is a low quality, but it has a very good impact. So we should be a little bit tactful while selecting the quality at the beginning. But the main important thing is that we need to search that to ensure an article which we are writing was not published on specific topic in the past. So that we should make sure. If it is already published, and there is a chance of there is a high chance of rejections and may not get the uh, publishers attention, sorry, the editor's interest and peer reviewers interest. So that is the first contact where even if we have a good story, they may not like, and there is a chance of rejection. So authors priorities for the journal selection, there are in number of key factors and marginal factors we consider, but at this moment I would just like to say a little bit about impact factors, access to the target audience, and open access. So I think the impact factor, as I said, the quality of the journal is primarily measured in impact factor, though it is not the absolutely indicator at in the present days. There are so many ways of measuring the quality of the published paper. So what is impact factor? Impact factor is just like that you there is a paper published, and we look at the 2 years, the number of citations in a couple of years. So that published in a particular journal, an average of all the published paper, we derive the average of all these citations, and that gives the impact factor. So normally high impact factor is considered a very good journal. But in optometry and ophthalmology, if you look at the optometry journal specifically, like clinical experimental optometry and vision science, ophthalmic and physiological optics, clinical and experimental optometry, journal of optometry, they are as such not high impacted, but it is well received in the scientific community. So these journals are not, I mean, not bad, just having low impact factor, but they are very good journal. The next is the access to the audience. So the paper, like when we publish paper because many people read it, and that is the what we call accessibility. So this access audience, normally we look at the audience. Like if you are publishing a paper on accommodation, we definitely like to look at the people who are working on that areas, and the journal also publishing more paper on that areas. So we will look at that audience perspective also. So we need to select tactfully that who would be the audience in that case. And the open access. Open access means these paper are freely available, so can be accessed any from anywhere, any places by anybody. So that means that increase the readability. That's what we want, that at initial stage, that our paper's been read by many people as possible. Yeah. Now coming to how to write paper. So we just look at the some of the we have I just give a small a brief background about the journals. Now our main topic is how to write a paper. So when we write a paper, uh, when like we have specific, if we have specific thing in mind that we are going to write a paper for a specific journal, then it's worth visiting the journal's website, and that we can find in the author's information sections that um, the guideline, the requirement, what should be the uh, paper's design, like formatting, referencing, the length of the article. These all we can found from the author's information sections. Basically the language, this is the most important. Normally in publishing a paper, uh, the language should be, it is considered that language should be clearly, the manuscript should be clearly written with list of the flaws, and if there is a lot of grammatical mistakes and things are not clearly mentioned, even without reviewers reviewing it immediately, it might get rejected. So this is important. But we need to follow specifically which type of pattern of English they are preferring, the journals are preferring. We might need to look into that. Obviously the reference style, there are many conventions of referencing, but still most of the referencing in the journals are common with some minor changes. So it's might worthwhile to look at the referencing style, so that we can look from the author information section. That obviously the formatting, these all we can found from the author's information sections. Um, like like when we, the important thing I would like to share in share what I've experienced is when I look at the author's information sections, actually in the journal they have given mm, vast number of the information they give, and sometimes we just may get lost, the information what we need may not be able to extract. So make sure that if we are looking at the particular section, we can just quickly scroll down to that sections and read the informations, because that information might contain 40-50 pages author's informations, which we do not like to read top to bottom. So we just scan and look at the sections where we are looking for. So like if we are looking for the manuscript designing, like the structuring the paper, we just look into that. If there is an ethical issue, just look at the ethical issue at the time. But at the time, I do not recommend to go through each and every instructions that we can find in the journal site. So normally, if we had done this some sort of project like in bachelor or master degree, that is what my primary focus of today's presentation is. That means we already have some sort of prepared draft. So in that case, we might seek the advice from the experienced academician or editor or the senior colleagues that what sort of things can be done so that the paper is publishable. What could be the what way or the pattern we should write the manuscript so that it has get a high chance of acceptance. So this we can take this advice from the seniors, academic experts, and the editors, of course. And after the article to conform to the journal's guideline. So then once we have a prepared, prepared project draft or the thesis draft. So in that case, I think it is a bit easier. Just we need to go to the journal and look at the pattern, and we can just conform to that pattern. So it's not tedious or difficult to alter from your original thesis to the journal pattern, because it's already in the structure. You just need to organize them. So that can be done very quickly, actually. So like in this point, the one more thing I would highlight is uh, about the writing a first draft. First draft is your thought and ideas, not the errors and corrections. So when we prepare a first draft, normally, ideally, what we should do is we divide the article into each sections. These sections we are briefing in the coming we just for in the coming presentations in the coming sections. Like we just divide them into sections so that we can write in particular section at a time, because we cannot sit all days and maybe a week just to write the paper. So when you take a break, you may not continue from the you may not get lost that from where you should start. So we always better to have sections and start on particular section at a time. And in the first draft, when we like first draft, we do not consider about grammatical errors, any sort of errors, grammars, any punctuations. We just write our thought, so that, and this can be crafted later on by doing edits. So we need a multiple time edits before it is ready, and it is final to be submit in the journal. So in the first draft, I recommend you just focus on presenting your ideas and thought. I do not care about any grammar and errors. And the other thing is, in the first draft, always it's better to start with the easy sections. Like we have divided sections like introductions, methodology, abstract, like result, conclusions, discussions, so many things. But always better to start with easy. So this is one we have to find out which section is easier. The practically speaking, writing the method sections and result sections are quite easier than the introduction and the discussion sections. So I always prefer to start with the methods or result. when we have a documents like the thesis or any sort of prepared document is ready. So I always prefer to do that. And then subsequently I build on writing in further in the other sections. And I write abstract at the last. This is the, even if it is appear first, it is always advisable to write at the last. Now coming to the components of the paper, there are many components. These components, the component which I show is ideally most of the journals follow the pattern. So I can say that more or less follows this same pattern for the original papers. So like title, we begin from the title. That normally reflects the main content and ideas. Author sections, that recognizes the significant contributors. Abstract, that briefly summarize the key information. I'm just reading this slide now at the moment. Keywords, ensures the article is correctly identified in abstracting and indexing services. That means we use keywords to find out that article. And we need to keep the keyword, we need to select the keyword in such a way that it hits. When it hit, that finds your article. That means that increase your chance of visibility. Then introductions explains the usually rational and problem and shows where is the gap in the knowledge. In method, explains the approach undertaken to answer the problem or the gap. And results, that describes the what was found. Discussions discusses the implications of the findings. Acknowledgements provide support. Acknowledgement recognizes the people or the organization who have provided support. References recognizes previously published work. Then appendices, these are the supplementaries that provide supplement and data and the expert reader. So we will go one by one and we will try to extract uh, how we should plan them. So I begin from the title. So a title should be normally that describe the content of the paper clearly and precisely. So this title can be presented as a key findings. You can put title the key findings, like uh, like if you are doing the study on myPI, you can straightforward say that uh, like myPI is highly prevalent in older age children, something like that. But that should be very much compelling and thought-provoking, so that the readers, once look at the title, tend to read the whole paper. So like we can put methods, the like any of the tests we use, we can directly put about test. Like suppose if we want to say that IUP, we are measuring IUP and we are finding some interesting result, we can directly say which method of the IUP measurement we use. We can directly put as a title. We can also put the conclusion of the studies or overall, and we need to make sure that that reflects the whole ideas of the paper. And normally we do not use any abbreviation and jargon in this case. And we tactfully select the keywords to frame a title, so that again, when keywords are hit, our articles are visible in front. Then authors listing, that as I mentioned, it's only include those who have made an intellectual contributions to the research. So there are many ways of measuring intellectual contributions, and some of the criteria which are listed or populated in the authorship criteria in the journals are the like the conceptions of the concept or conception of the ideas, study from designing the studies, data analysis, interpretation of findings, writing a paper, a critical revision of the papers. Normally the supervisors, the co-authors, main senior, they normally do, and final approval. So merely normally what we assume that the data collection will satisfy the authorships. So just collecting the data may not satisfy the authorship. Hi, Kapil. Hi. Is it okay?
Sir, it's fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's okay, sir. Yes, sir. It's fine.
Okay, thanks. Coming to the abstract, as I mentioned that this is the last to write, but presented first. So this briefly summarizes the problem. Normally we present as a purpose or aim in the abstract. Then we put the methods, results, and conclusions. The word count we can view from the again the author's guideline. Normally 200 250 words are we normally need to write in 200 to 250 words, and normally we present key ideas and findings. And in the keywords, sorry, just a minute, yeah, because I like in abstract. Normally, when we write the purpose normally ideally uh, I normally prefer to select only put 2 to 20 to 25 words for the purpose or aim or problem. Methods, I would like to a little bit elaborate methods, so I just prefer to use 75 to 100 words. And for the result, similarly 75 to 100 words, and conclusion maybe about 25 to 50 words. So I try to structure in that way, and I just pick up the key like if I want to write the method, I just select key ideas, the process what I did in the as a keywords, and I frame the methods in the abstract. But this is at the end only, so I'm just emphasizing that. Coming to introductions, this is seems easier one, but it's a very hard task to write introductions, because you have to do the even you have ready document like your thesis or the project report. At the time when you think you are writing the paper, there might be many papers coming up with new ideas, so we have to do the literature search. So it consumes a little bit of time. And usually the introduction provides the contextual background, like the problem and issue being investigated. Like we said, what is the problem or issue in this context? And then the background also explains the problem, not only the issue and raise the issues, but also explain the problem, where that usually states where is the gap in knowledge, and the reasons for conducting the research, obviously. Then why is this study important? So we give emphasis on that. And then definitely we identify the questions we are answering here. And like I mentioned, the challenge and the extend current findings. Challenge and extend current findings. So we normally extend, this is understood, extend the current findings that connect to the research problem or ideas we are going to explore. But challenge means sometimes the studies might have some previous findings might have limitations or drawbacks. We can challenge that. We can also challenge that, and we can justify that why we are going to do this, why we did this study. So we can put in that way also. So this basically covers the ideas of experiments, hypotheses, or any of the research question and experiments at this point. Coming to method. So we normally write methods in details that enough to understand and replicate the research. That means if somebody wants to see that the research what we do, can they do with the same process? So we want to make sure that it is clearly, concisely written, and somebody wants to review this, can be done. So we do not exaggerate and put a lot of informations. We just put just enough informations. And we normally explain the study procedures in a chronological order as long as it is possible. Like for this example, like if we are doing a qualitative and quantitative study together, like I just give you the computer vision syndrome. One person has done the computer vision syndrome studies and took the data on the visual problem side with some sort of questioning, and also did the clinical test. Then we need to think now which should be the prioritize and put in the chronological order to do the two data collections. Either we should start from the qualitative data or quantitative data. So I mean from the question or clinical test to questions. And in the research, normally we should follow a pattern throughout the pattern in each of the samples, each sample collections. If we're following with the collecting collecting data from the questionnaire first, then clinical data, we should follow in that pattern. So that should be the consistent, I mean. And when we describe the methods which is already been done, we normally cite them. So that also reduces the burden of writing full details, because the citation means that can be reviewed in that citations how it is done. And this methods usually includes all dimensions of data that is pertinent to the answer the research question, like its observations, what observation we did, records, maybe clinical records, metadata, photos, videos, information tests, whatever is there, that all includes and that presents the main ideas. And this also includes the issues related to validity, accuracy, criteria, normality errors. And these are not mandatory in all cases. It depends upon the type of studies. So this is just an idea I'm sharing. So this method normally, to make it interesting to the reader, what we can do is we can present the method, the process in a flow diagram, maybe in a table form also. So this way we can make it interesting and more easy to read, and people often like that kind of presentations. Now next, coming to result. Normally in the result we shows the findings in a logical sequence, answering our hypotheses or research questions or our objectives. So like when we do the studies, the main objective are derived from the many small specific objectives, and meeting each of the specific objective in the result ultimately lead to the main meeting the idea of the main objectives. So this way also we can plan. And but the results should be presented very concisely. We should not present all of the findings. Like normally, I just give you example. Like when we describe the demographic data, we said male, female, also all the level of the like socioeconomic data. Just I give you an example. So like somebody said, this person is farmer, this person is student, this person is that. We do not need to explain all of them. We just need to explain key finding, what that actually that result says. So key, just few of the key sentences we select. We do not write whole of the findings in this result. And this is expected to be again novel. Result should be a novel that should reflect the new ideas, and it also should better with the clear and revealing figures. So that means we can present result with a very good figure and tables. So it would be self-explanatory. So people often do not tend to read whole articles. So if we present result in a revealing way, like with using finger or tables, people often like to read those results. So we can think about that, how we can make it is revealing, presenting the figure and tables. So this should be sufficiently descriptive, not the overstated. This is the important thing. And usually when I write the results, I prefer to write maybe around 1500, 500 words, just 500 words. Methods need little bit elaboration normally. So methods might goes 800 to 1200 words for a typical original manuscript, which accept up to 3000 words of paper. And coming to discussion and conclusions. So in discussions, we actually explain what that result means. We do not repeat the result, but we say that what that result means. We do not recite or reiterate the same result. So then we describe what the result means. And we also indicate how the results are relevant and relate to the expectations and to the literature previously cited papers. So for this example, like in the result, we say that the myopia is more prevalent in old. Myopia is seen in old ages by, suppose, say 25%, and this is the highest percentage. So in the discussions, the same idea, we normally do not write same idea. We write that the myopia is more prevalent in all ages. We can begin from that statement. So in the result, we have said that myopia in the older age group or specific age group had maybe 35% or 40%. That shows that myopia is more in older age. So same idea we can present in discussion, but not with the same finding. We extract that information from that finding, and we put in the discussions, and that started discussions with what is the idea about that in the previously published paper. And the same we can carry with the different sort of analysis with the different indicators or different factors associated with my IPR. And this way we can make it more interesting and unique. So basically, uh, we need to think that how the research has moved the scientific knowledge forward. So that means it should be uniquely presented, and from what sort of further interventions or what sort of further studies can be done, and what new ideas or concept has been added, we need to focus that. So we look at the result overall. What is new? We just need to find out what is new, not in the literature. Once we find out, that's done. We just need to pick that and highlight those parts. So that shows that attracts or connect uh, reader immediately. So we can highlight that, and maybe we can use as a title of the project also, of this manuscript also. So we can think in that way. So coming to the references, it seems like this is the end of the slides. When we normally read the presentation, reference means end of the slide. Here the reference means it's a very tactful task actually. Referencing convention has different rules. There are different style of referencing. I'm not going in detail about that. It might cover another presentations, but I just would like to give you a brief idea of the referencing the paper. So normally the referencing means acknowledging the contribution of the published work, and any information is that not original, that means that is not owned by us, should be recognized as a citation. And this needs to be need to refer to the journal for the intake citations and the listing of the journals. That means intake citation means in the manuscript itself, we need to give numbering or sort of intakes, maybe the authors. So it depends on the type of the referencing convention we use. So we need to follow that, and this can be found in the author's guideline again. And the type of listing of the journals, we used alphabetical order or numbering system. So we just need to follow the convention basically. But the importance of referencing is not so easy actually. That different authors use, different people use different techniques referencing the paper. So like this, basically I would like to share two broad ideas in a referencing. First is we just write our main ideas. This is usually the expert and experienced people does. We just write ideas and we comment and elaborate or like in discussions, and later on each of the sentence, each of the ideas, we just look at these ideas and we refer them. So those people who are very much experienced, only they can do that, because they can find out the article easily and which source that could belong, and this and that idea actually originally from which source it has came. So it is easy. The second is the normally what I prefer is note making. So as I read, I just make a note and write the source. So this is again, I usually do this again by two ways. I can do it two ways. If the title is too lengthy, when I start writing this note, if title is short, I just pick up title and put the different color, and in each note I just put attach that title. If the title is too lengthy, I just prepare the first author and the journal name, year of publication, issues, number, and pages. This would be very short. I just put that. So either way, we can later on retrieve the main article. So when we are referencing, so that actually saves the time. If we start writing and referencing at the same time, normally people do. This takes a lot of time, and the idea which we are thinking may not be effectively presented, because our focus would split into both writing as well as referencing, and that may not give the effective result. So referencing normally we put at the end, but different ways we can use. But it is very difficult to reference, because referencing is also very important. Like when we when the reviewer read the paper, they look at the reference, and if they do not find the reference appropriately being cited, and it just caused annoyance and they just reject the paper. So this is very important part, if you can say. Now the next is, I just would like to highlight ethics. The ethical issue is also broad, but just briefly, I just like to talk about the issues. Normally, this comes with the publication process also. That's why only I include over here. So normally we disclose the conflict of interest. The conflict of interest means any sort of financial interest, interest related to the copyright, interest related to the instrument use. These might have been mention. It's better to mention in ethical issues. Usually in the online publications, they have a format. We just need to read, and we should say if we accept or we do not accept. Mostly journals, they prefer to say accepted. So this is actually easily guided process actually in the submission process. Then we acknowledge the funding sources. This is the most important thing. If we have somebody sponsor our project, we need to acknowledge them. Or if somebody helps you in the research process, data collection, or the providing some sort of equipment, that also should be acknowledged. Like regarding the image and figure requirements, one idea is, if we are taking figure or image from some source, we need to make sure that this has been approved from the main primary source. The other is, if we use the image, in that case, we, prior to sending to the publication, we need to get consent from the person who has given that photo. So like patients, we need to have separate uh, consent from the patient. Normally in the journal publication, they do not ask for the document, but they expect us to say that this has been received. And then we also can provide supplemental information like data sets, videos. Currently, high impact journals, they expect to send all our data maybe in the Excel format or in the SPSS format, whatever is the format available. They want to look at the original data also. But usually this data set, these are the supplementary process, may not require in majority of the cases. And then coming to the ethics approval. So this is usually initiated before the start of this project, and this is utmost important in the health research in the science. So this is called as an institutional review board approval. So this has to be mentioned that when we submit the paper, this has to be mentioned in paper as well as in the submission process. And we should say that the institutional review board approves the paper. And they are different with the clinical trial and different process, but I would not explain about this in detail much over here. Now coming to the online submissions, because all of the journal publication, I mean the most of the publications are online. Hello.
Yes, sir. It's audible,
Yeah,
sir. Yes.
it's I just listen a bit of disturbance, so I just pause.
Okay, sir.
Okay, it's
Can
okay.
I
Yeah,
be to? Okay, sir. No problem,
yeah,
sir.
okay, yeah. So because nowadays the submission is mostly majority is online, so I just briefly overview the online. So many publishers now offer a complete electronic submission and review processes, and that makes a lot of easiness and convenience nowadays. Because just sitting in computer, you can do everything. You get the online correspondence, online review, everything is online. So it is quite convenient and timely. So, but before online submission, I would like to uh, mention that make sure the checklists are being prepared. Like cover letter, normally what I used to do is I prepare cover letter, separate title page, separate abstract, separate manuscript, main body of the paper, separate table, separate figure, and if required, supplementary files, and separate copyright forms. So here I would just like to highlight cover letter and copyright forms. A cover letter means the letter we normally write to the editor why we are submitting this paper. So this is an opportunity when to get to convince the editor that why this paper is important. And we normally write in just few lines, 2 or maybe 3 lines. Um, the best part of the research, we mentioned the highlight the best part of the research and why we are submitting this paper, why this paper is worth publishing. So we just write this. And copyright form, normally copyright form, some journals expect to submit that copyright form initially, but majority of the journals, they ask for the copyright once paper are accepted. So I think we do not need to bother much about copyright issues. And the most of the journals they have already printed format of the copyright form. We just need to add the corresponding add the all the authors and provide signature. So that is also pretty simple. So we do not need to put a lot of stress on this part. Now I just quickly overview the review process before I wrap up this talk. So how the review process happens, I just like to briefly overview that. So normally the peer review process starts from the paper submission. We submit the paper to the journal, and after submission, immediately you normally get receipt of confirmations in the email, and that this is normally sent to all the authors also. Then this paper is went to the reviewer. This usually goes to the reviewer, editor, sorry. Editor review it, and if editor sees that this is worth to send to the reviewers, they send to the reviewer. But if there is no new idea, editor can send rejection immediately. But editor usually send the reason behind the rejections. Maybe sometimes with just silly mistakes like grammatical stuffs, and they just send that we just correct and resubmit. So in that case, you might get the rejections, and that is the minor thing. But once the editor said that it has to is sent to the reviewer, usually it's sent to the two reviewers outside the institute, and the reviewers assess the paper and they send back to the editor again. And this is notified by, this is the responsibility of the editor, that again this notified to the author. So there are three possibilities from that. One is the rejections. So if reviewers say that this paper has no new ideas, they just reject it, and this information sent to the author. And if authors feel that this can have potential have a publications, they might ask for the further revision. And this further revision can be a major revision or minor revision. A major revision usually means there is a flaw in the maybe flaw in the data analysis, flaw in the methodology, a flaw in the scientific content. So usually they want to address that issue. So in that case, if there is a major revision, means we need to do a lot of work. And so sometimes there are only few minor glitches are there that are not normally sent as a minor revisions. So minor revision means it is almost like I can say it is almost like acceptance. And the last one is the acceptance. So usually I just hear again a little bit noise. Actually the acceptance, it is rare that the authors get acceptance letters in the first review. It is rarest of the rarest. So this is almost, I think, is rare to get acceptance in the first instance. At least the authors, they might receive a minor revisions before accepting. So once accepted, it goes to the production and publications. In that process also, our editor corresponds with the corresponding author. Corresponding author means the author who is responsible for taking care of all the submission and review process. So finally, I would just like to show this picture that the manuscript submission passes through the stages of the screening before it gets accepted. Sometimes it might be, we might feel that it's so much a process and it's so vague, and we might get the tired of uh, this. Maybe even you might feel inundating looking at these presentations, that this has to go through so much of details and process. But this is actually part of the screening process, so we can say that this is part of screening process. So but once you get the paper accepted, you really cherish that moment, that I can assure. And finally, normally in the manuscript submission, most of the journals, they prefer uniformity requirement for the manuscript submission, that is biomedical journals, and they almost follow the same format. So I just provided the link over here, and this is accessible. And there is, normally we look at the NLM NIS government website. This is the universally accepted website. And normally nowadays when we apply for some higher studies or for the project or for this any grant or the scholarships, usually the the person are advised to make a profile on this NLM account. This NLM account is just for the listing of published papers. So to track the person's the publishing record. So this is the government site, and this is actually freely accessible, and we can populate this in this site. My final message, then coming to the final message, I encourage and I request, please start writing your paper. So initially you might feel that it's a bit slow and difficult, but later once you start writing, maybe the first paper would be a bit difficult. Once you get accustomed with writing the first draft, I'm pretty much sure that you can write second, third very quick and very fast. So like in my track record, it was the 2011 I started first writing, but later on I did not face any hitch and difficulties later on. So because you will you will get accustomed with the process and it would be pretty much fast. So finally, publishing paper gives you sense of achievements and contributions. You feel that you are somewhere you are success in the intellectual community. You will definitely feel satisfied. So finally, I would leave this for the discussions and question answer with this final message from the Sir Franchise back on. He said that reading makes the full man, conference a ready man, writing a exact man. Okay, thank you very much.
Uh,
So
Thank
I
you
would
so much,
conclude
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So there are some questions. Can we go for the discussion round, sir?
Yeah, sure. If somebody has I would just like to add this, that if somebody has some better ideas, like I saw the Ajit also, he also might have better ideas. So we can share our experience. That is a forum for actually. So we can question answer definitely. We can share our experience also. That is what my objective is, that share our experience and promote the colleagues for the publications.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is a question from the Vishal Hamal. He's
Okay.
asking, sir, how many reference will be ideal for an article?
How many reference would be?
Ideal for an article.
Ideal for an article. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Vishal. I would like to answer your questions. So you said that how many references are required for an ideal article. So I would like to say that the number of references actually really doesn't count in the publications, but some journals prefer, they mention that this number of references are only they accept. Like some journals say they will accept only 30 references, some journals say maybe 50 references, and some journal even do not mention. So it is I think it is not about the number of the references we ideally put. It is about the concept that how it's been derived. So if you are referring and you have a very brief very detailed discussions about your ideas and the published reports, in that case the reference might go very long, and in that case I think there may not be a ideally we can say that there might be this number of references, but usually in the original paper, original manuscript submissions, the references might go as much as maybe 50 or 60. And but if you look at the review paper, if you write the review paper, and in that case definitely it goes maybe above, certainly it goes above 50. And some in review paper, if you look at it, you might see as much as 450 reviews references in the review paper. So one is you need to look at journals if have any such restrictions. If there is no restriction, then I think we do not need to bother. The good references is always important. The important thing is that the source is important. When you refer, the source if is coming from the very good, critically analyzed paper or not. Like if you quote uh, if you refer from from the local magazines or some sort of um, I mean, I would not say inferior, but not being good quality papers, and those references may not be good. So we need to look at the confidence of that paper also. I hope I have answered your questions.
Okay, sir. Okay, there is another question from the Asmita. Asmita, can you please unmute your phone and ask your question, because I'm unable to understand your question. Asmita Marin.
Actually, it's not question. I'm just
Okay.
giving his answer.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks for helping me, Asmita.
Yes. Niranjan sir, you can come out with your question, I guess. Niranjan
Okay.
Saran sir.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Gauri sir, for your wonderful time and fascinating presentation. I have
Thank you very
actually three
much. Yeah.
questions to ask. First, I'll ask with what is the criteria to avoid plagiarism, first thing. And second is what is the basis when we are determining the order of the author, like first, second, or third? What is the main basis? Those are the
Okay.
two questions.
Okay, I got
And
your point. Yeah.
okay, and the third is based on your perception about the Nepal, and then now you are in Australia. You might have seen there are a lot of reasons why research is not blooming in Nepal, but when the people go outside, it gets flourished. There are many reasons, like maybe one part would be the brain drain. So, but what is
Yeah.
your perception? Why it is not flourishing here, and what is the way forward?
Yeah, three of these questions are really thought-provoking questions, actually. What I was thinking is the issue on plagiarism and authorship. I was thinking to do the presentation on this. And this is a very elaborative and a most important part of this publishing work. So plagiarism, normally plagiarism, to avoid plagiarism, there are many techniques and the issues, many ideas we can use to avoid the plagiarism. One of the main sources is that, as I highlighted, the references, referencing. So you need to follow the complete convention of referencing. So normally, I just give you one example of the plagiarism. Normally, what we think that we copy a idea from the journal, certain amount of idea, and we refer them. We give the citations. We give the citations, and we thought that we are not doing plagiarism. We are not plagiarized, but actually this is a plagiarism. You cannot copy the idea from the published paper, and even if you cite that paper. So normally you should create your own idea from that, reading that paper, and then you have to refer. So this is just a basic example. So there are so many issues of the plagiarism. So I think this is worth having a separate presentation on that. And even I'm uh, writing academic integrity, writing a small article for this coming Nepalese Association of that Nepalese students. They're publishing a paper. So I was just thinking to write. In fact, I'm writing a paper on academic integrity. So in that part also, I actually am addressing the plagiarism. So that is academic issue. So here research, in the research context, is different. I think this is a very broad. We need a separate discussions or separate presentations. And regarding author, the order of authorship also, this is also very important. Usually in the academic context, the first author we assume is the first author is the student. Principal author is normally in academic context would be student. If they are not student, is the first person is means he is the person who is working throughout the paper corresponding with the other co-authors, and he is the main person who is corresponding, bringing ideas. So this is the first author. So this way we can do. And the last author is, I'm going from first to last now. The last author is usually the most senior person. Excuse me, its sound is coming up. A
Okay,
bit
sir.
disturbance is coming up. So okay, and the last author is usually the senior person where you do the research. Maybe the lab in charge, maybe your principal supervisor, So last author usually is the senior most person, and then the first author following second author is mean working with first author, but maybe not that intensity, and he is not the main person. And the working from the last to the second last is in the same order. So we look at the authorship from first to last, and we move from second last, third last. So this way we organize the authors based on the contributions. So that normally what we do is, when suppose if we have more than three uh, authors, we normally sit together and discuss how these are designed, and make sure that all are happy with that, the position of the authors. And the third question about the research in Nepal, why it is not flourishing and why it is flourishing abroad. I think this is definitely there is opportunities issues. Like in abroad, they have a very good system of research conventions. They have funding for the universities for the research, funding for the academic staff, separate funding for the academic staff for the research, and the government also have a separate budget for the research. And there they have a good facility and good network with each of the researchers. So because they prefer the collaborations. But in Nepal context, I think this is where we are lacking. So funding is, I think, the one part. The second part is the stringence of the academic excellence criteria. In abroad, as I mentioned, that why people do publishing for the promotions. So in the academic, to be a sustain in the academic context, you must be productive in the research. Only then you can grow in the academic context. Otherwise, you either publish or perish. You may lose the opportunities. But in Nepal context, that is not formed. So as we can see that publication is not the criteria for the promotion, and this culture is been growing now in Nepal. So I think it may take a while that system happens and the research uh, things are flourished. The other, like I said about facility, here the research, they have separate research lab. Even in optometry, there are separate vision research lab, research units, and they have separate facilities for each of the area of the research. In Nepal context, we are lagging in that case. So research, like we do not have research department, which is research lab, where students can sit and work freely and flexibly. And this is not the context in Nepal. And even we have very good research facilities in Nepal, we are not having a sort of having a collaborative approach with these research centers, research institutes, and that's what we need to develop, that kind of collaboration, and that helps us have a paper, do the research and publications. There are so many things, but I think it takes a long time. I just noticed these three findings at the moment. I could recall these three major findings, major ideas. So I hope I have answered, not even though fully, I have not answered fully, but I hope I have answered you partly in this context, because this is a very elaborative questions.
Okay, sir. Okay, there is another question from the Rodip. Sir, we are fascinated in a research related work, but main issues that I have gone through is finding a research topic, because availability of a resource is a big issue for the interesting topic. And if we have option for the simple topic, we can see the single hundreds of articles which are already published in the past years, and it is a kind of disappointing, and we end up doing nothing. So how to see the topic? Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. This is the questions I'm expecting from the audience actually. So actually, I forget to talk about this. I think this is very interesting. Normally, for the PhD students, like PhD students, they already there is a structured project. We normally work and synthesize ideas. It's quite easy, and there is a senior staff always there to help us. But in context of the, I especially focusing on the undergraduate students who do the project, and they really find difficulty in selecting the paper to do the research. Normally, ideally, what should be done is, this is my, this is may not be applicable in all contexts, but this what I prefer. Maybe if I start working again, and that's what I prefer, is ideally undergraduate students. It is definitely very much difficult to select a particular topic to do research. In that context, the faculty member in the institute working, they must be updating and upgrading, so they may have better ideas, and they are the person who responsible to give you a specific topic and to work on that. So that saves your time, because your undergraduate means you do not have so much of time to do the research also. So you have to have a good result in a very specific time bound, a specific time. So normally I expect that the faculty give you the ideas, concept, and execute how to execute, and you just work on that. This should be ideally should be that. And not coming to the, you talk about, you find hundreds of articles when you select the research. So when you read the paper, when you read the paper, I do not recommend you to read whole of the contents. So you need to scan it. Maybe in the discussion somewhere you find that this research implications. So you need to find out research implications or the research limitations. So that might guide you the further research to be done. So you just need to look at where is the implications, where is the limitations. That might help you to guide. Or maybe they have some research questions not being answered fully in that paper also. So you just need to look at the objective. In that case, look at the objective of the paper and look at the result, if that objective are met or not. And if you feel that it is not answered fully, I think it's a point where you can start, and you can critically again, like I said, you can write that what is the, you can challenge that paper that this is not being answered, this has to be, this portion has to be elaborated, so I'm doing research on that background. So you can extend in that way. So I think, I hope I have answered your question.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Sir, Hiranath sir asking for the question. Can we share something on picking up keywords after writing a paper?
Yeah, that should be ideally we do. So normally keywords, we normally select keywords for the normal keywords for the title.
Yes, sir.
That hits. So that means that should be not done at the last. Or maybe you just draft the paper. Once you draft the paper, you might have better ideas, then you can put the title using that keyword at the last. So it doesn't matter. And the other keywords appear is normally at the end of the abstract, or in the author sections we need to put keywords. So normally we select at the end, and we select that keywords tactfully, that so that somebody hit that keyword, pop up your article in the Google. So definitely, of course, we can do at the live, we can put at the last.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for answering the question, sir. Pankaj sir asking for the question: Is EndNote is good for refreshing article while writing manuscript?
Sorry, I could not get your question.
Is EndNote is good for refreshing article while writing manuscript?
If EndNote is good for writing manuscript,
Yes, sir.
referencing the manuscript.
EndNote. Yes,
okay, I got, it's about EndNote. Okay. So normally they are normally in the referencing and writing manuscript, writing and referencing. Normally nowadays we use EndNotes, and we also use Mendeley. There are two well popular softwares we normally use in Notes and Mendeley. And actually, reference normally what we do is we bound ahead a lot of time in organizing references. Sometimes we have to edit, and like reviewer gave the comments, we need to add reference. Again, the order of number changes. So in that cases, actually, if you use like EndNote or Mendeley, you do not even have to think about where your reference is going. You just select the idea, you just click it, it put in the right place. When you edit or things, they automatically use. So that means if you use in Notes or Mendeley, that helps you a lot, and you do not need to worry about referencing. The only thing you have to look at is the particular journal might have particular format of the referencing, so you need to follow that. One way, the journal gives the extension to that EndNote, so you can just copy that and put in the EndNote, then you can easily done. If it is not available, you can create the EndNotes according to the journal's requirement, and you can use that also. So there are different techniques you can use. So that if you use EndNotes or Mendeley, definitely that saves a lot of time.
Okay, I guess Ranjila, you got your answer from the Riyaz Ali sir. Okay, there is another question from the Ananda Paurel. What should the minimum interval between the data collection and submission of the research publication?
Should interval of
between data collection and submission of research publication.
Submission of
research
publication. Okay. So this answer it depends. I can say it depends, because if you are doing, suppose you are doing MPhil. If you are doing MPhil, you might start data collection at the middle of the year, and you submit that report in of maybe second year. So you have a good amount of time to data collect and submit. So if you are doing undergraduate project, in that case, you might have 6 months time. So everything should be very quick. So it depends, but there is no any, normally when we do research, there is as such no guideline that the data collection should be goes this way. This is just an research plan. You plan when you collect data, when the data collection will be feasible according to the requirement. Like suppose you want to see the things which is happening in raining season, you can't collect that data in other season, so you have to wait for the rainy season. So by that time you might be working on other part of the research. So but there is no any guidelines such that says data collection and submission have a particular time frame.
Okay.
So this is all about
sir, yes, thank you so much, sir. Niranjan sir, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thank you. Niranjan here, sir. You said about the plagiarism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah.
Okay. So you said about plagiarism. I will not go in depth about it, but then during our selection of our manuscript by the author or by the reviewer, if in case it happens, we are unintentionally submitted a manuscript which has plagiarism. So do we get the notification that whether our manuscript has plagiarism, or they will reject it and they will not inform about the cause of the rejection?
Yeah. So when there is a extensive plagiarism, definitely they recommend. But if there are few only a minor content, so we look at what is the percentage of the plagiarism. So the plagiarism normally in academic context, the plagiarism exceeding 20% is unacceptable.
So the cut-off limit is 20%?
Yeah, 20%. Yeah. So normally if there is a plagiarism, they will definitely comment that, work on that part. So they comment, the reviewers comment it. And ideally what we do is we use, there are softwares to check if there is any plagiarism or not. So you can put your manuscript in that software and check which part and which component there are plagiarism. And you check if it is really a plagiarism or does the software detect detections. So once you identify it, you just reframe them before submissions. So that helps avoiding plagiarism.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
For ending the session, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude towards the presenter, Mr. Gauri sir, and all the attendees. And also, I'd like to appreciate all the helping hands for the iTalks program. Herewith, I am ending the today's session, requesting all of you to drop your review and feedback. Stay safe, keep in touch. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Gauri sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kapil. Thank you very much, Kapil. And also, I'd like to thank all the participants, and especially those who have had interactions. So all the attendees, I also like to thank to all of them.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
sir,
okay,
for your
thank you.
time. And